it is important for the church to discuss money because money is one of the biggest stressors in people's lives. If they have good control of their money and what it is doing for them or against them, it can make their lives much easier. And money is one of the things that Jesus talked a lot about. He showed us that there's value in investing. That one of the parables, actually, the person that buried the talent lost it, and it was given to the person that invested it. And so God loves multiplication, and money is one of the things that he can multiply in our lives and help us achieve the things that we need to achieve in our lives and help those around us that are less fortunate as well.
I think that it is important for us to talk about money because our world and the economy of our world operates very, very differently than God's economy. In God's economy, we're told that it's more blessed to give than to receive. And the way the culture of our world messages us is that we need to go out and get. And so I think it's imperative that we understand the difference between those two very different economies.
Generosity is should be a foundation for everybody's life. Generosity it creates an opportunity for God to bless you. So if you just hoard everything to yourself, I like to use an example actually. If somebody holds everything in their hand like this, they can only hold a little bit. But if they hold their hands open, they can hold a lot more. So God can bless you a lot more if you're generous and keep everything with open hands.
Living life with open-handed generosity is so contrary to our cultural norm. And the only way we can actually do that is when we understand that in this world, there is only one owner in the entire universe. And it's not you or me. It's the sovereign, eternal God of the universe. He loves us. He wants to care for us. And we can living with generosity allows us to live with a level of freedom that lowers anxiety. And I would suggest that today, anxiety is something that probably needs to be lowered in our society.
It is our way of giving back a little bit of what God has blessed us with, because basically everything we have is from him. It's a gift. Even our breath belongs to him. And so that tithe is just a symbol of obedience that we are committed to following Christ and giving him a portion of what he has so abundantly blessed us with.
There have been times where our financial situation did not allow us to have money to give. I remember a number of years ago, we had a particularly bad year on the farm and we had lost money. And Karen and I sat down and we looked at all of the things that we normally give to, and we prayed about it, and we felt a clear direction from the Lord that we were supposed to give anyways. And so we were simply obedient in that. And we actually, it might sound a little crazy, but we actually borrowed money to be able to give. And I think we would have never got there if it hadn't been for the fact that we had been obedient all the way along, and that we had learned that the Lord is able to, he's able to give and he's able to take away. And we've experienced both sides of that. And when he does either one, it's neither to punish or to even bless us. It's just for our growth process. And the real issue is trusting. And if you're going to take some of your hard-earned money and you are going to surrender that in a tithe to the Lord, I think it actually makes the fundamental difference between money potentially being our master or being our servant. And it's worthwhile keeping money our servant in life.
So it depends how old you are. So if you're starting out as a young person, you can get by with a very small percentage towards your retirement plan. So usually what we tell people, if you're wanting to retire at 55, you need to save 20% of your income. If you're wanting to retire at 60, you can get by with 15% of your income. If you're going to 65, you can get by with 10% of your income from your 20th birthday to your retirement. And so that would be 10% of the gross income. Yeah, so budgeting is important because it keeps people on track with their spending. Because if you leave people to themselves to spend, they'll spend more than they have, and things will get neglected or abandoned as a result. So as an example, if you don't have a budget and your tithe is leftovers at the end of the month, you're going to spend it and say, oh, I got nothing left, and you might put $5 in the offering plate. Well, that's not being a good steward of the money that God has entrusted you with. So what you need to do is look at how much income do you have and compartmentalize it into, this goes for your housing, this goes for your vehicle, this goes for your tithe, this goes for your retirement planning, this goes for your food, and budget those things out, and then you can analyze whether you're on track or off track with your budget. And as your wage grows, I recommend trying to keep your budget the same, and investing more and giving more, and that way your abundance will actually flourish, and you'll have extra. Another important thing to note is that you need to have an emergency fund. The emergency fund keeps you from getting into financial trouble. Often people use their credit card as an emergency fund, and then they can't pay it off, so they spend the next 10 years paying interest on a credit card that they should have never used. And so what we recommend is make sure that you have 3 months of living expenses set aside, that's easily accessible, has no fees to access, and can be used to pay any emergency bill that comes your way. And then after that, have money in various different investment vehicles. The longer the time frame that you have, the higher the risk you can afford to take on it. So if you need money in less than a year, it needs to be in low risk. If you have money that you don't need for 10 years, you can be in medium risk or higher. And so that gives you the opportunity to have growth that's beyond what you would get in a low risk investment. There's an app called mint.com that works really good for budgeting, that can really help people. One of the main things that I'm passionate about when it comes to building wealth is realizing that we have been fed information over the last 100 years that isn't necessarily applicable today. So the rule that we use as financial advisors is, if you have debts that are higher than 6%, pay them off as quickly as possible. If your debts are below 6%, like right now, mortgage rates are below 2%. We're getting ridiculously cheap rates right now. And so if you have a mortgage, re-amortize it as long as you can. Keep that every time it comes up for renewal, take it back to 30 years, lowering the payment that you're giving to the bank. Because if you take the difference and you invest that money for yourself, you will create extra wealth over and above what you would if you just paid that money to your mortgage. So the rule, 6%. Any debts above that, pay them off as quickly as possible. Any debts below that, make minimum payments and keep your money working for you. Let me give you an example. If you had $100,000 worth of debt and you amortize that over a 30-year period, you'll pay approximately $52,000 in interest over that 30-year time frame. If you had $100,000 that you saved up or got as an inheritance or a bonus over years, and you've got this $100,000, you could pay that debt off. If you did, you would have given the money to the lender and you would no longer have it in your possession. So if you took that money and invested it, and let's look at the rule of 72 again. If you get a 7% growth rate on that, 7 goes into 72 10 times. So your money would double every 10 years. So if you have $100,000 today, in 10 years at 7%, it's $200,000. At 20 years, it's $400,000. At 30 years, it's $800,000, and all it cost you is approximately $52,000 in interest to get $800,000. That is a wealth building tool that can change your financial future. Another thing to note regarding that is start as early as you can. Because a young person, 20 years old, investing $100 a week to age 65 at a 10% growth rate has $4.6 million. If they wait till age 30 to start, the same $100 a week, they end up with 1.6 million, $3 million less by waiting 10 years. If they wait till 40, they end up with 600,000, so $4 million less than the 20-year-old. And if they wait till 50 to start putting that $100 a week away, they end up with 160,000. So start as early as you can with as much as you can, because compound interest will help you get wealthy.
Actually, I'll give you two answers. The very first one, just always make sure that you spend less than what you make. that's fundamental. That's like breathing. Okay, if you don't do that, it's all over. But secondly, if people could understand the significance of the rule of 72, I don't know why it isn't taught from like grade 3 on, but the rule of 72 is the most powerful concept that anybody can ever understand in terms of being able to make the right decisions around your budget and around your long-term goals for your finances. And the rule of 72 is actually very simple. Take the number 72 and divide it by the interest rate that you would expect to receive from any kind of investment, or the interest rate that you're going to pay on something that you're going to buy, which might be a depreciating asset. So for example, really simple, 72, and we decide we can get a 10% interest. You divide the 10 into the 72, you come up with 7.2. 7.2 is the number of years that it will take to double the amount that you've just invested. So if we're making an investment of $100 and we get a 10% return annually on that interest rate, in 7.2 years, you will have $200, okay? The flip side, and that's the part people can say, well, interest rates are pretty low, investments, I can only get 5 or 6% on my investment. It's going to take forever for me to be able to make any money in my investments. Where people really misunderstand the impact of the rule of 72 is on their credit cards. You have a balance on your credit card, you don't pay it off, or you pay part of it off, they still charge you the interest on the full balance, even though you only paid part of it off. And they charge interest at over 20%. So let's take the 20 and divide that into the rule of 72. Well, now in 3.6 years, what's going to happen is if you had $1,000 on your credit card, that balance is going to become $2,000 or more. Most credit cards are 21, 22, 23% type of thing. And if you understand the rule of 72 and how it can work for you and how it can work against you, then I think that is a powerful motivation and guidance for making good decisions.